Hello and welcome to a new episode of Meet the Author Live from New Degree Press. I'm your host, John Saunders. New Degree Press is a part of the Manuscripts Enterprise Incorporated. This enterprise has now published authors on over 6 continents and ranked 293rd on the Inc. 5000 list, which is just mind-blowing. This is the fastest growing privately held companies in America. Do you think you have a book in you or want to start to accelerate a movement in the next 10 to 15 months? Visit the Creator.Institute now. The new cohort is starting this week. This is a comprehensive coaching program that will take you from idea to published book. Not just published, but published like a second-time author, which includes audience creation and activation. Super important part of the journey. So Meet the Author Live is an opportunity to learn everything valuable there is to know about a new author, and we can answer questions you have live in the chat. Please feel free to add in the chat where you're calling in from, and certainly any questions that you have for our special guest today. Really excited about this episode. I have a brand new author with me, Christopher Veal, who published his book just about a week ago, May 22nd. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And has a newly released podcast out on the Creator Community podcast, available wherever you consume podcasts out there. Quick bio on Christopher, and we'll jump into the questions here. Christopher Veal is a man with many hats. As a former Marine officer, combat veteran, and a Black man with 25 years of experience in talent and leadership development, he now hosts the Vulnerable Man podcast, is a TEDx speaker, and an executive coach and leadership consultant. If you want, I watched Christopher's TED Talk a week or so ago. If you want to feel the hairs on the back of your neck stand up, go listen to hear his story. It was incredible. In his book, he delves into vulnerability and how to incorporate it into a more inclusive idea of masculinity so as to allow men to live healthier, more complete lives. Unbelievable story, Christopher. So glad to have you here today.
Wow, I mean, that's a pretty impressive introduction. I'm like, for me, I was like, who's the guy he's talking about? I'm like, oh, that's me. So thank you.
Right? How does it feel to have that book out there, buddy, on the web, on Amazon, wherever you buy books online? It's got your name right on the cover.
It's amazing. And I think one of the greatest parts about it is I'm starting to get messages from people now as they're getting their books. So I mailed them out last Thursday. And I think yesterday was the first text message I got from them saying, I got your book. So it's really cool to actually see people excited about receiving it and starting to read it as well. And that I think makes it a lot more concrete.
I think what you're talking about is these books you sold in the pre-sale that you sold.
Oh, in the pre-sale. Yes, that's right.
Right. Yeah, for those who might not know. What percent of your publishing costs were you able to fund with a pre-sale campaign, Christopher?
I was able to fully fund it, and enough for my hardcover as well, which will be in a few months' time. So yeah, it was a great experience.
So much more to come from Mr. Veal. So the ebook is available today. Got some special pricing going for a few weeks. Is that right?
Absolutely. It's 99 cents for the ebook for another about 3 weeks. And then the paperback is also available on Amazon and a lot of other places you can buy books. And then if you want an autograph copy, you can drop me a line and we can work that out too.
That is amazing. And I'll put your information up here if people want to reach out to you and get that autographed copy. You can find Christopher pretty easily on social media and his website there. So Christopher, for those thinking about a book, could you give us a little bit of a few nuggets into the author journey? What was it like for you?
Yeah, be prepared. It's some work. But what I'll also say is get some good support. That was fundamental for me in getting this book written. And I know you talked about the Creator Institute when you did the introduction. That was the key for me getting this book written and having the structure and the support. I know I've said previously, my developmental editor, Jesse, and my marketing revisions editor, Chuck, both a huge piece of me creating this thing and bringing it to life and putting it out in the world.
It takes a lot of pieces to the puzzle, and certainly the support can help a lot. I know when I wrote my book in the end of throughout the year of 2020, I tried to quit it a couple of times, and I can tell you without the support and community, I probably would have walked away, or I'd still be writing it, years later. But it is now done and available. So, what do you think you learned most about yourself through this journey of getting the book done, Christopher?
Well, perseverance is definitely one of them. It takes a lot to continue day in and day out to do the writing and moving it forward. I think the other thing I learned is just that there's a lot of people in my corner and that are supporting me and were really cheering me on throughout the process. And that really gave me the motivation to continue going forward and getting the book completed. And there's also the accountability piece. Last year, just about this time when I said, hey, I'm writing a book, people were going to hold me accountable. And I knew that now that I've said it, I've got to do it. And so that was also a big piece, having my community know that they were expecting it.
It's great to have that support, not only to say, hey, let's go do this, but to cheer you on and give you feedback as you go, right? It's so powerful. So
Yes.
let's talk a little bit about the book, right? Your book is about vulnerability and why men oftentimes close off their emotions. What is the big cause of that, have you found?
Yeah, there's there's really two main influences, I think. The first is the role models that young boys tend to get from men in their lives. And a lot of men that grew up in previous generations, vulnerability wasn't something that was even talked about or encouraged. And so it's not a fault of any of those men. They simply grew up following the models they saw. But I think what happens is when young boys grow up seeing examples of a version, maybe a very narrow or sometimes unhealthy version of masculinity, they believe that's the way they've got to act to be a man. And so when they see those examples, that's what they emulate. The other thing that I think is a big factor, especially nowadays, because we are so in our screens and our devices all the time, is society and the media. And when we look at the way that men are portrayed, it tends to show a very narrow example of what a real man is. And I use the air quotes because we say it almost facetiously. If the example I love to use is in action movies. Like I grew up with like the Schwarzeneggers, the Stallones, even a little bit before that, Charles Bronson, and Chuck Norris. And there was this kind of guy that never showed emotion. He was always tough, always beat up the bad guys, and like always won the day. And it creates this narrative that as a man you have to be able to to win, to overcome, to never ask for help, never show emotion, and heaven forbid you don't get done the job you got to get done. And so I think those two things, when they work together, tend to really reinforce this unhealthy masculinity, that there has to be just this one way of being a man.
All these influences around us, right? That give us this skewed perspective of how to really deal with it. And when we don't sort of work our way through it or have a better solution, right? We sort of default to our old habits, which aren't always great ones from the role models we've had.
Right.
So what are some of these habits that people can develop to have this whole man life?
Yeah. So for me in the book, I wrote when I wrote the book, I really wanted to make it something that was easily digestible. And while it's easily digestible, I'm also going to say it takes work, much like writing a book. But I have 5 habits that I came up for the whole man. And the acronym that I use is CAPES, and stands for curiosity, awareness, presence, emotional health, and stay. And so what each of those are is curiosity. It's really a question or a wondering and an openness to explore. In awareness, we start to dive into recognizing where you are and where you need to go based upon that curiosity. Presence, which was one for me that I struggled with for a long time, is about slowing down and connecting. It's really about filtering out the distractions and being present to your life in this moment right here. Emotional health is about building and sustaining emotional well being. What I like to say, really developing emotional fitness. And then the stay is about remaining and doing the work and not running when it gets hard, when you're trying to do all those other things. And so, I like to say, like, we don our capes to become the whole man and claim that, whole man superpower, which is vulnerability.
And captured so brilliantly in your cover design here. A friend of yours helped you with that, didn't they?
He did. So my best friend Dave, I've known him for oh wow, more than half my life. As a matter of fact, this past weekend I was up as the best man in his wedding. So Barb, Dave, congratulations. And yeah, when I first started talking about it, he is an amazing artist, and so he sent me some sketches, and I was like, okay. So when I saw that, I'm like, that's definitely going to be part of it. So in all honesty, when people vote on my book cover, I'm sorry the cover was already decided, even though you thought you had a vote. But I knew I wanted to give a shout out to my best friend with this as well.
Wow, it looks fantastic. So, one more question about the book, and then we'll dive into the rapid fire questions so people can really get to know the author behind the book here. Why is it important for people that don't identify? Why is this topic important for people that don't identify as a man?
I think at the core of it, while I'm writing this through the lens of men and vulnerability, because we often avoid the topic, at our core, we're all human. And so I think there's things that all people can learn, in practicing the habits and donning their capes. But I also think that for those that don't identify as men, it gives a little bit of insight into some of the things that are holding men back from stepping into more vulnerability and showing more emotion. And I think the more we can start to understand each other, the easier it is to start to begin conversation and dialogue so that we can move towards a healthier future.
So important and such a brilliant message. And I really appreciate you making this topic that's, I think, so difficult for men to, I've seen throughout my life,
Mhm.
to sort of deal with and sort of embrace that vulnerability. And I think a thought you shared on our full episode of the podcast that's available now wherever you consume podcasts was vulnerability breeds vulnerability, but sometimes that's awkward to step into. I want to touch on one question there because you talked about this, and I want to give people a taste of it. What do we do when that happens? If we try to be vulnerable and we don't get that response back, what's going on there? What
Yeah.
do you want
So
people to know about that?
the short answer is their response is not anything to do with you. I learned early on as I was starting into this work, when I would get vulnerable sometimes and I would see other men kind of literally lean back, it caused me to hesitate. And I started to just remind myself it's not about me. They're at a different point on their journey. And so the more I continue to lean in and show that vulnerability, the more I can show that example of what it can look like, and maybe invite them in a little bit too. Maybe they're not as comfortable as I am with it, but what I know is the more they see it, the more they're open to it and willing to try it themselves. So just go first is the thing I say, and don't be attached to how it's received.
I love that message. So now that you've been through this journey, you've written this brilliant book, it's out there in the world. You think would you write another book, Christopher? What do you think?
Maybe right now I'm just like I'm decompressing from this one coming out, and who knows? Maybe somewhere down the road there will be another book, but
Well,
we'll just let this one go for a little while.
I'm going to put you down for the January cohort for the next
Right? Yeah, yeah. And if I don't
October.
answer, then check back in 10 days. Yeah.
Nice. Well, as I said, Christopher has got his book out there now. Season 4 of the podcast is available wherever you buy podcasts or wherever you consume podcasts. It's called The Creator Community. It's on YouTube in full video and on Apple, Spotify, wherever you like to get your shows out there. And Chris did have a keep calling Chris. Sorry, Christopher had an idea he wanted to share with you. I think is a brilliant one, and I think something everybody needs to hear. Want to share your quick thought on this, Christopher?
Sure. Well, and you kind of put the bug in my ear when we did the book launch, but part of what I'm trying to do is spread the word about this too. And so if as you're listening to this, you think of, oh, I know somebody who I think could benefit from hearing this, whether they're a man or not. 99 cents. Think of 5 people that's $5. About the average cost of your frou-frou coffee at Starbucks. Gift them. Send them out so that we can help spread the word. Because what I really do want to do is, that sounded awkward. What I really do want to do is I'm on a quest to destigmatize the word vulnerability for men. And so the more we can get this out there and have men understanding and hearing it, and have the people that have men in their lives hear it, I think the quicker we can move that narrative.
Such a powerful message, and what a great way to go out and share it in the next few weeks while this fantastic deal is going on. I actually interviewed a prospect for executive coaching the other day, and it was fascinating to hear. I'm going to use the word, it's machismo. Is that still the word we use? There was the level of mask that he was wearing in this interview and his unwillingness to kind of step into this. But I was trying to have a very real conversation with him to kind of get a sense of what he was doing and what he was trying to figure out. I'll tell you, it was shocking. I haven't had a conversation with somebody like that in a while where it was just so stark. And I actually heard your voice when I was talking to him. This isn't about you. It's about them and how they're reacting to this. Because I was trying to, be a bit vulnerable and get him to open up. And it was tricky. And it was I hadn't run into that severe of a case in a while. It was interesting.
There are definitely some cultural things. When I wrote the book, was really kind of looking through a lens of how we hold masculinity in North America, but there are some culture aspects. So there's probably the next book. I look at it from different cultures. Thanks. Now you've got that bug in my head.
Right. There you go. I knew I'd find a next book for you here before we got
gotten out of here 5 minutes sooner. Yeah.
Nice. So Christopher's book available wherever you buy books online. His podcast is out there. And certainly if you want to sign him up for coaching, go visit his website or find him on LinkedIn. Fantastic services and such a powerful message. Let's jump into the rapid fire questions here, buddy.
Okay,
You ready?
let's bring it on.
I'm
just going to go with my first response. So I don't even know what the questions are. Let's see this.
I always like to start with the most important one. Favorite sandwich?
Oh, I'm going old school. I'm going PB&J.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Did you cut the crust off or?
No. But actually, if I'm feeling really adventurous, I'll make a triple decker. So like it's jam on the bottom, peanut butter on both sides of the middle, and then jam on the top. So like that's if I'm feeling crazy. Yeah.
That is solid. I like that.
Yeah.
Favorite color?
Oh, blue.
Blue. And no blue on the cover of the book. Interesting.
No, I know. Ironically, right? Yeah. But yeah, go figure.
Favorite vacation spot or most memorable?
Ooh, there's lots of great vacation spots. It's probably somewhere in the mountains. Yeah, I've been to some really cool places, but I always love the mountains. They call to me.
I'm with you. There's something about the scale that really gets me. Scariest animal.
Scariest animal. I'm gonna go with the. It's probably some kind of snake. I'm not necessarily scared of snakes, but like they sneak up on you sometimes. Actually, I was out hiking a few weeks ago and like happened upon a rattlesnake out of the blue.
Wow.
So glad he rattled, but yeah, I'm gonna go with the rattlesnake. Why not?
I guess that's an intimidation tactic if they have, and it always seems to work, doesn't it?
I'm not a ninja and I can't grab the snake out of midair. So like I'm screwed. Most other animals I can avoid. Yeah.
Favorite movie.
Ooh. All right, I'm gonna have to go Princess Bride. That's one of the ones that's at the top of the list. I can always watch that anytime, anywhere.
You killed my father. Prepare to die. Such a great movie.
Inconceivable. Yes. Anyhow, we can go on for days about that.
Favorite smell.
Ooh, favorite smell. Vanilla.
Oh, winner. I think for me it's bacon and coffee when you sort of come downstairs on like Saturday morning, right?
I changed my answer. Bacon, and bacon.
Last photo on your phone.
Oh, okay. Let's look. I gotta see. The last photo on my phone. Actually, it was at my buddy's wedding.
Nice.
It was here. Hold on. It was the two of us. I'm assuming I need to show it. So that was my camera. That's Dave and I. That's him. Yes.
Look at you all dressed up.
I know. We almost look respectable.
I actually didn't even know what mine was, and it was Carlo Mafouz,
who just published. Right. You were at his book launch. Nice.
My first live book launch since COVID struck. It was he's in the DC area here by me, so I went over there. I think it was Sunday afternoon. Had a lovely event. Nice. Favorite song to sing with or without an audience, Christopher?
My karaoke one is a different one that I am not going to reveal, but probably. Ooh, God Bless the Child, but like the Lou Rawls version. That's probably the one I sing. No, that's probably it. We'll go with that one.
This is not your favorite karaoke one.
No, that'll be for the next interview. We'll talk about that one.
What is one thing you own you really need to throw out?
Oh my God. If I open my closet, I can probably think about 40 things. Right. I've got a bunch of clothes that I need to get out of my closet that I just need to do a spring cleaning. So that's what I'll put on the list.
I hear you. Well, it's still spring, I think, for another couple of weeks.
Spring-ish. Actually, I think I lost the bet. Oh, no, wait, technically until the 21st. So I've still got 19 more days. Okay.
Couple weeks left. Most audacious goal for 2022?
Oh, we talked about this in book launch. I think we did. I want to be interviewed by Oprah for my book. So if you know Oprah or know Oprah's people, hook a brother up.
That would be amazing. Now that you've signed all of these books for your guests, I'm curious, have you ever asked anyone for your pre-sale bars? Have you ever asked anyone for their signature?
Oh, absolutely. So Josh, that was on the book launch.
Josh Levs.
I got his, and Josh Levs. And so I got his back in 2015, I think, when I met him. But that was one of my all-time memorable ones. Yeah.
That is awesome. Yeah, Josh
and I got
Levs.
A couple people that are in the next cohort, so I've already bought autographed copies of their books. So I will be getting those soon too.
Nice. People you've referred to the program.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Josh Levs, if you want to check out Christopher's live book launch, we did that about a week or so ago. It's available on all the New Degree Press channels, LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook. So go check that out as well. That was a lot of fun. Very nice of Josh to join us on that. Josh is a former CNN, NPR journalist, right?
Yep. Fact checker. And he is a gender equity guru, and he goes around the world talking about it. And, his thing is around talking about like paternal leave for fathers and how that's a big piece. And I love him. He's an amazing man. And as much as he claims CV for president, he will be my VP if I ever do, which won't happen. But that's another story.
CV.
Watch the book launch, it'll make sense.
CV, not the fancy acronym for your resume, but Christopher Veal, I think is the CV you're referring to. Yeah.
He kept trying to tout that at the end of it. I was like, no, that's not going to happen.
I remember it well. That was really funny and very nice of him. Favorite praise quote these are the quotes on the back of your book for those who might not know. What was your favorite for your book?
I got one, I think I think I might have shared this in the launch as well, but somebody sent me a message and said they had just read my book, and he said, this should be required reading in high school.
Wow.
He said, if I had read this when I was that age, it would have changed the way I showed up in the world. And I think that was pretty cool to hear that.
And was that somebody that you knew?
A
little
colleague
bit?
of mine, like a professional colleague that, I probably met several months ago, but is also, he does a lot of writing and stuff. And so I asked him to be one of my early readers, and get his feedback. And so it was a really cool thing to hear him say.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
Best part about being an author so far?
Uh, well, I'll say it'll be saying that I'm an author, but I'm still not good at doing that yet. I have to remind myself. Um, and I think just knowing that I've done it, like it's done. It's pretty cool to have that accomplishment.
Incredible thing to have on your resume, LinkedIn page, what have you. What would you say to those considering writing a book, Christopher?
Do it. Um, yeah, like do it and have the right support so that it doesn't need to be hard. I think for me that was one of the biggest lessons is I didn't know what it took to write a book, and I probably made it harder in my head than it was. And finding the program with Creator Institute really just, it simplified it, made it easy for me. And so that support was key to me getting the book done. So yes, if you think there's a book in you, there is, and write it. Don't wait for the perfect time. There's never going to be a perfect time to do it.
Right. To so many, like, right. We always say, oh, I'm sick. What a terrible time to be sick. There's never a great time to be sick, right? There's never a good time to write a book. But, dive in. Part of the process that is just having an inkling of an idea. That's where we start. And sometimes people don't even have an idea when they come to the program, or a super rough idea. And that's something that the process helps you distill and then work through the building blocks of turning that thought, that idea, through research, interviews, studying, watching TED Talks, watching all sorts of research, doing all sorts of research, and creating those building blocks and turning it into a coherent book to make your argument, tell your story, all through and all told through stories and the richness of stories, which really bring books to life.
Yes, absolutely.
Right, Christopher. Last question here. If you could describe your writing journey in 5 words, maybe could be a sentence or not.
5 words. Scary, exciting, awesome, satisfying, and vulnerable.
Scary, satisfying, awesome, exciting, and vulnerable. I couldn't have said it any better myself. So cool. Anything that we didn't get through today that you want to share with the audience?
Whew. No, it's like, again, I'm just so appreciative of being on this journey and excited for what's next. Actually, it's funny. Somebody said to me yesterday, so when's the audiobook come out? And I'm like, oh man, give me a break. I just finished this. But obviously at some point I'm going to have to break out the microphone and start recording. But I just really want to say I'm so appreciative of all the people that have shown the support, whether it was in the pre-sale during that happening or along the journey. This really is, it's partially my story, and it's also the story of a lot of men that I've been talking to over the years. And I'm grateful that it's really resonating with people and landing. And I'm excited to run into people that have read the book now. And I was in a bookstore the other day and I was kind of like, ooh, I wonder what it'll be like if I walk in a bookstore one day and see mine on the shelf. So I'm looking forward to that day too.
That is so cool. You just made me think of one question I didn't ask earlier that I wanted to, which is, how did the book journey help change, refine how you do your coaching engagements?
I think it's in the last couple of years, I've started unconsciously bringing it in. And one of the things that I know, whether it was my time in the Marine Corps or since in corporate America, the leaders that I've most resonated with and most respected were the ones that were willing to show a little bit of vulnerability, that they didn't feel like they had to constantly have all the answers, be flawless, be perfect. And it made them more relatable as a human. And so in the leaders that I work with, whether they know it or not, part of what they're getting signed up for is bringing more vulnerability. And it's usually how I model it that invites them in. And what they find is they become better leaders when they let a little bit of their guard down and they let people see their humanity. And it tends to expand their influence and help them just be more successful as leaders. And so I think that's one of the things I've really appreciated. And sometimes I'll even say, I've had somebody, actually just last week, I was talking to someone and he said, hey, a colleague of mine referred me to you, said you kind of really made them get vulnerable. And I was like, oh, and what made you decide to call me? He said, well, I'm scared of that and I know I need it. And I was like, then the word is getting out. And so I really appreciate that. I took that as a great compliment. And I think that leaders, whether they're men or however they identify, when we can let ourselves be a little more vulnerable, that's going to really help us connect with people and be more effective.
I find so many times, having worked 23 years on Wall Street, now years as a coach, that vulnerability is scary. It's scary to put yourself out there. As you said earlier, you're not sure how people might react. It's about them, not you. But has there ever been an amazing leadership book written about a person that went around and said, hey, go do this, sit down and shut up and go do this, right? Like that's not a thing, but not a good thing. And it happens, right?
Yeah. And like you said, and we've talked about, like, vulnerability breeds vulnerability. So when you, as that leader, are willing to go first and show a little bit of vulnerability, it creates safety for others to be able to do the same. And I think that's the foundation for connection. When we can let ourselves really be ourselves, then we are able to just relate to each other in a way that might not have been possible otherwise.
Absolutely incredible and a powerful story. The Whole Man, Evolving Masculinity. It's available now wherever you buy books online. Christopher has it on a special deal for 99 cents for the next couple of weeks. Go out and get a copy, get several copies, and send it to somebody who needs this story. It will change their lives.
Mm-hmm.
Christopher's easy man to find on LinkedIn, Twitter, Whole Man Journey, website, wholemanjourney.com. And if you haven't heard his podcast episode yet, season 4 of the Creator Community is out now, wherever you get podcasts. I really enjoyed our conversation a couple of weeks ago, and really so thankful that you brought your story to the Creator Community, Christopher.
Yeah. Well, thank you, John. I appreciate you and all you're doing with this, and giving me the space to be able to talk about this book as well.
The pleasure is all mine. Great to see you today. Thank you to everyone for listening in. Come back on Friday. We're going to do a couple more episodes with Katya Davidova and Katie Joy Duke on Friday, and a few more next week. But thank you for joining us. Christopher, thank you again for jumping on. Have a great rest of the week, and we'll look forward to seeing you all soon.
Take care.